Patricia's speech. Tonight she will share how to use the law of mind action to buy a car. And she wants the single members of the audience to know that the same principle will support them in getting a loving relationship when they use it skillfully. Patricia Fruitwater, that car is mine. That car is mine, Patricia Fruitwater.
Wow, that was such an eloquent introduction. You read it just there. How many of you have heard of that law of mind action? Some of you said, no. Some of you said, well, let me tell you, I didn't always know about this law. When I was a young woman in my 20s, I had no idea about that law. But I was operating from it anyway, because we all do. It's part of our birthright as human beings on the planet. So this is what happens. I discovered this law of mind action when I went to a church called Unity, Palo Alto. And that's one of their principles, the law of mind action. And it simply means what you spend the most time thinking about, that's what starts to show up in your life. When I was, a young teacher, I decided I needed a car. And I wanted a good car because I'd always driven my mom's big old station wagon. You know, it was one of those big old boxes. It was like, I don't know, a Dodge or something. And I had younger brothers and sisters, and they were always in the car with me. And so I wanted a small car. So it would be me and the car and maybe a few selected people that I chose. Well, at any rate, I got my first job here in San Francisco, and I was making a whopping $500 a month. And I decided I would buy a Datsun. They had just come out. I was so proud. I went to the store. I searched this store, that store, and I got an orange Datsun, which was one of my favorite colors. I drove that baby off the lot, and I thought, oh my God, I've got my own car. It's new. Maybe 3 people can sit in it. I had 6 siblings, so that was perfect for me. At any rate, it started backfiring. The minute I got it off the lot, I said, what's that? And it continued to backfire. Anytime it was cold and I drove it. So I took it back to the dealer and I said, you know, this is a lemon, and I want my money back. And he said, oh no, we can't do that. You can't have your money back. You just bought a car and you just have to let it warm up. That's all. Oh my word. A new car and it backfires and the smoke comes out a little bit and I was very unhappy. So I kept that car despite all of that for some time, and it took me where I needed to go, but sometimes there's this little part in your heart where you're making do, but you're still mad. That's what was happening. So I kept that car until I decided that it was too cold and I was getting rid of it, so I did. And then I went into, because I wasn't using the law of mind action and I didn't know about it. My husband said, you can have my old car, I'm going to get a new one. So I said, okay, that's a savings. By this time I was married, right? And we were thinking in terms of savings and having getting a new house and maybe starting a family, and so I put up with that because I didn't know any better, right? So I took his old Datsun, and by then the children started coming, and it was okay because they were little kids, little toddlers. They don't fit into this little old Datsun it never would wear out. I thought soon it should, so I could start thinking about another car. never wore out. So I was driving along with my babies in this car. Well, you know, I've discovered with this law of mind action, if I think about something, sure. But this is the way it showed up because I didn't know enough to think positively about what I wanted. And I was thinking, I have got to get me another car. And I really do want another car. And I want it to be a bigger car. I want it more luxury. I want more room for my kids. And I was going on and on. Well, doggone it, I had an accident. Now, this accident was interesting because basically what happened is I was at an intersection across from the fire station, and I was going to go through the intersection, and this woman in a big old Oldsmobile hit my car, broke my ribs. My babies were crying. The girl who was like dark-skinned, brown like chocolate, was so pale I didn't recognize her. I said to myself, my God, is that my child? And so these firemen came out and gathered up the children, called the ambulance. The ambulance happened to be right there at the red light because they were coming to visit their friends, the firemen. Everybody was in place, took me to the hospital, took care of the kid, called the husband. I didn't have to do anything except get to the hospital and get ready. And then that started to make me aware that I really need to be careful about how I think about what I want. Because I don't need to go through accidents. Finally, moving it forward at this rival age, I have discovered that I can have whatever I damn well please. I just have to be clear about it. So this time around, I decided I wanted an Acura. That's a luxury car. It has no maintenance problems. All you have to do is go in and buy it. Well, I didn't have any money, but I didn't let that stop me. So I decided I wanted this Acura. I wanted all the bells and whistles. And I discovered that they had a lease system. I leased it. So now I have my beautiful Belladonna Pearl Acura in my driveway. No maintenance problems, no issues with safety. It's a beautiful car, and I called it into being. I am so pleased with that Acura, and I want you to know that you can do the same thing. Just be very clear on what you want and stay focused like a laser beam. Before you know it, you'll have what it is.
Thank you, Patricia. For the benefit of the Patricia Free Class speaker, evaluator, Emily Wickham, please welcome her. Yes. And her timing is 2 to 3 minutes, and Ernestine has that.
To begin, what I want to do is actually separate this into 2 pieces. The reason for that is because of the objective of this speech. Take just a few seconds. And it specifically said at the beginning to make a self-deprecating joke and include at least 2 sets of jokes in the speech body, with each set composed of several jokes. And what ended up happening was in the beginning, I didn't hear the self-deprecating joke. And a self-deprecating joke is modest about or critical of oneself. And there's a real importance to that. Does anyone know what that is? Just a quick raise of your hand. When you make a self-deprecating joke, then you're saying, hey, I'm human. I make mistakes. I do something that's just really crazy and weird, and I look back at it and I can make fun of myself. And so by doing that, you kind of bring yourself onto the same playing field as everyone else. And they really enjoy it because they can see your humaneness as well. And so when I didn't hear the self-deprecating joke, I'm like, what, huh? I'm like, what's going on here? I was really, really confused. So I wasn't able to hear that first part. I feel like I missed part of your really delightful speech because I got thrown off.
I said, I thought I said what it is.
Yeah. So what I heard was as a self-deprecating joke, was about the intro. And the way it sounded to me was that it was in a way complimenting yourself and Tyree, and that by the definition of self-deprecating, that doesn't fit. So that just threw me off. And my forte is not humor per se. I've been exploring that. So I was not particularly great at hearing the different jokes illustrating everything, but I did catch a few. And that's where we kind of segue into the second part. You have a really great presence. You're very calm, you're very soothing. There's a patient quality to you that really exudes into your speeches. I love how you speak. It just really, it's warm, it's welcoming. You show yourself as someone that will enjoy yourself and enjoy the company that you're around. And that really just comes out in your speeches. What ends up happening as a result, though, at the same time, is that it's almost like there's this really pleasant, sane quality throughout. So your jokes are a little bit more subtle, very light, very, very, very gentle. And so with jokes, they just need to be exaggerated a little bit more, make them a little more absurd. And you did a couple of those. I really liked the part where you're talking about the driver. She was this dark brown woman, and she was so pale. She was just visually picturing that. And I think that's where some of your humor lies. So being able to exaggerate that even more will allow us to laugh. And that's what happened. Throughout the whole piece, we discovered quite a few different pieces. The message was there, everything reinforced everything else, and everyone had fun. You heard the light chuckles. You heard the humor. I was able to see the smiles. People enjoyed everything that you said. The last piece, I know I'm out of time or over time at this point. There's a book I've been exploring, and I just really encourage you to look into something like this, and it'll allow you to just explore how you can exaggerate things in your own way. And that's the only thing I would really suggest.
Thank you.
Thank you, Emily.